Welcome to For the Long Run, the podcast exploring the why behind what keeps runners running long, strong, and motivated. I'm your host, Jonathan Levitt. I've been running for a few years now and have the privilege of meeting many incredible runners on my travels all across the country. This podcast is intended to share those amazing conversations. This week's guest is Kat Bradley. Kat is a professional runner for Salomon living in Colorado. We sat down in Boulder to talk all things trail running. Kat got started just a few years ago and won the 2017 edition of Western States, a race she had one lottery ticket for and almost didn't even run. We talked about her love for 100-milers, what she's scared of, how she practices gratitude and appreciation on the run, and what keeps her going through the tough times. This was a really fun conversation. You can almost see Kat smiling while listening to this episode. Her joy and passion for the sport is contagious, as you'll hear. I hope you enjoy this one as much as I did. Welcome back. I am here in Boulder, Colorado with Kat Bradley. Kat, thanks so much for joining today.
Yeah, of course. I'm happy to.
Awesome. So do you want to give a little background on who you are?
Sure. So I got into running when I was a kid. I got in trouble at school and they told me I had to choose a sport or spend a lot of time in detention. So I got cut from the JV volleyball team and ended up joining cross country. And it was quickly fell in love with it, performed well, and ran for UC Santa Barbara, and then got super burnt out super quick. So I quit the team almost immediately. And then just like looking for something to do, I got fully immersed in the outdoor industry. And I was a backpack guide, a ski guide, and a raft and canoe guide. And, and then naturally, two worlds combined and I started running trails. And I've been really passionate ever since.
Cool. Where were you living when you started getting into trail running?
Kind of everywhere. So after I took a break from school completely and, moved to the East Coast for a little while where some of my family was, and I hiked the Appalachian Trail in 2011. And then after that, I started getting these crazy run projects that I saw. There was this 88-mile north to south run in Rhode Island, and I read a blog about it, and I'd never run more than 10 miles. And I looked at it, and I was like, sounds
That's cool.
Fun. Yeah. And so the next week I did it and, or I tried, I made it, halfway, I made it 44.
Which
and
is
then,
most of Rhode Island.
Yeah. Which is most of Rhode Island. And, and then I didn't really trail run after that. I finished school. I did a little bit of running here and there, but not too much. And then when I moved to, Winter Park, Colorado, in 2013, that's when I really started picking it up. And, still, I wasn't training for anything. I was still backpack guide, but I was signing up for races. So I'd do these races without running a step, in the 6 months prior.
And you were 22, 20?
Yeah, 21 when I really started signing up for races. Yeah.
And so you run now a couple 100-milers or a handful of 100-milers.
Yeah.
What was the progression like from that, those 10-mile runs to the 44 to the 50?
Dude, so I just went straight up. My first race was I signed up for my first 50K and first 100-miler in the first sitting. And because I just wasn't training or wasn't running at all, I signed up and just no running for 6 months.
Afterwards?
Before. And so it's this crazy
You weren't
cycle.
overtrained.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't overtrained. And I was really strong from guiding. But my legs just weren't that strong because I was mostly raft and canoe guiding at that point. It was just so surreal. I don't even know what I was thinking. I just kind of was whatever. And for whatever reason, I'm super competitive. So I went out really hard. My first 100 was Bryce 100. I probably went out 7:30s on trails, racing with the 50-milers. And then it actually took me 36 hours. I was DFL. And eventually, but it's just that progression is just so crazy. And I would just sign up for these races and not think about them till race day and be oh no, I haven't run a step.
So how did you go from dead fucking last to winning Western States? What like talk me through that kind of progression.
Yeah, so what happened was I was in Winter Park and I was raft guiding and ski guiding, and then I in 2015 I moved down to Boulder to teach. And when you're up there, you're not, you don't have the distraction. The way to get outside in Boulder is to run. I couldn't like go out and ski out my door anymore. And I couldn't go out and like go on these crazy raft adventures. So like to get outside and to get my outdoor fix, I'd trail run. And then as soon as I started actually like running more than once a month, I just
during
got
taper
fit.
week.
Yeah, exactly. But seriously,
Oh crap! I've got a race coming up. I should probably break in these shoes.
I know. Or I've bought shoes like the day before the race several times. Because I didn't have running shoes, because I just wasn't using them. But anyway, I just when I started training more, I started quickly, getting better. I had like some success. I had a lot of success at the smaller races, and then I was still teaching, and I still, wasn't taking running seriously until my first DNF at Run Rabbit Run. I was pulled from the course, and like David Roach and I had chatted before that. We knew who each other were. I raced the 50K national championships and like didn't know, way overestimated what I could do there.
I mean, were you fueling? Did you know anything about
No,
fueling?
I knew nothing. Absolutely nothing, let me tell you. Like, I'm just now really learning. At Western States, I didn't have any calories for the last like 25 miles.
Wow.
But anyway, sorry, I lost my train. Oh yeah, and then after I DNF'd Run Rabbit Run, I was like wallowing in my hotel room, and David Roach and I were like chatting on Facebook Messenger, and he was like, "How do you feel about me coaching you? Like, are you looking for a coach? Like, I'd love to."
And this was 2015?
This was actually 2016, so
Okay.
a year after I'd moved. And because we'd met at the 50K national championship, and we'd been like in contact since then. And I just like after DNFing Run Rabbit Run, I really I needed that. And then after that, it was like working with David, I took running way more seriously. He really helped me balance teaching and running, and just having, I started running way more miles, before even I was like doing Green
Like
Mountain every
5
day.
miles even.
Yeah. Well, when I was in Boulder, I
5
was
runs a
probably
month.
doing 5 runs a month. When I was in Boulder in like 2015, before I worked with David, I was probably doing like 30-mile weeks. So give me a little credit.
Yeah.
But then I started like quickly jumping from like 30-mile weeks to like 70-mile weeks, and that's when I really like all of a sudden I felt close to my old self in college. Not quite that leg speed, but I had my engine back, and I and not even a year, or maybe a year later after working with David, not even actually, I won Western, and it just, took some guidance.
So what was the build up to that? What was it like, getting entry into that race?
Yeah. So I got entry to that through one lottery ticket, and, I actually had planned a trip to France, that was going to be over that week, Western States week, the day before. And I would or like the few days before, I was signing up for Mont Blanc 80K. And then the next day I got into Western States, and I couldn't believe it. I really considered not doing it because, it just wasn't on my radar.
Right. And had you run 100 at that point?
Yeah, I'd run a few. So Bryce 100, Pine de Palm 100, Rio de Lago 100, let's see, and the Bear 100.
Mm-hmm.
And I, so that was my 5th 100. And so, I got in, and, David sent me a text like, yes, our 5-year plan is now like a 6-month plan. And my training for that, I have not been able to put together a build up for that since, or like quite the build up. I just had everything in training went perfectly. I had like a little setback in April where I had a Morton's neuroma that I thought was a stress fracture, but I was only out for a week, and everything else just went perfectly. And I haven't been that fit since.
What do you attribute that to?
I don't know. Since I've had I've had some setbacks, just we were chatting before I got in a car accident in 2015, and just since then I've had a lot of problems. My mileage was pretty low training for Western because I was teaching, and I think just with the up mileage and my back issues, it's really made a difference. Or it's been hard, or maybe it's just catching up to me, you know, the back stuff. But it was just a perfect buildup, and I just had a great support system. And, you know, I thought about Western States every day, you know, from when I got in to when I won it. Yeah. And I just haven't had that since. Everything just clicked.
Cool. How do you deal with the physical pain of, you know, I can't imagine you feel good during, you know, 100-mile race. How do you manage that pain?
You know,
let's start with physically and then talk mentally.
Yeah. So physically, I mean, I don't think you can talk the physical part without the mental part, because all of overcoming the physical part is just mentally, you know, acknowledging that it's okay, you know, and I think both of that, you know, both like the physical and mental definitely go hand in hand. And I think the biggest thing for overcoming that is just like acknowledging that, you know, it's okay.
Suck.
It's gonna be really hard, and there's nothing you can do about it, no matter what.
And if it doesn't hurt, you're not going fast enough.
Yeah, if it doesn't hurt, then hundreds hurt no matter how fast or slow you're going. And I've been at the front of the pack, and I've been at the back of the pack, so no matter how fast or slow you're going, it hurts. But it's just like a matter of being at peace with that. Yeah.
Cool. How do you practice gratitude? That was a question that came from another swapper. How do you practice gratitude and compassion when things are not going as you would like?
You know, something that I learned actually in that 2017 year was when you make a huge effort, like over the top, like people may think you're not genuine, but just an over the top effort to be, you know, to say thank you to the aid station workers, to the crew, to like really talk to and respect not only your competitors, but everyone else in the field. Like it really, like, even if you're faking it, fake it till you make it. It really, you know, you start to feel that. You start to feel your heart starts to open to like the sport and how amazing it is that everyone's out there, and how amazing it is like that your crew is out there for you, that you have people that are going to be out there all night for you. Like that's a big deal. Not everyone has people in your life willing to make, you know,
not sleep for 24 hours.
Yeah, exactly. Cause that's uncomfortable for them. I've been on both sides of that, and man, I swear crew runs harder. So, and it just like really being over the top about that. Fake it. Seriously, fake it till you make it.
Nice. What are you thinking about on the starting line?
I'm trying not to think. I have always struggled with start lines. I always wish I could skip that part. And I try to convince myself that I love them, but like they're, you know, it's a lot. It's a lot. You know, the buzz in the air can be special, but it also can be super intimidating if you let it, and it can be hard. So I just, you know, I think to myself that, or I try not to think at all, but if I am thinking, I'm like, you won't be feeling this in 10 minutes or 30 minutes. Usually you still feel it in 10.
Nice. So you mentioned that nutrition was something that you didn't have a firm grasp on, you know, for Western States. Are you at a place now where you're fueling during the race and during the last 25 miles? What does that look like in a 100-mile race?
So I think before I was just trying to force it too much. You know, I just didn't know what worked for me. And I'd go on these crazy training runs without eating anything because I thought I didn't need to. Like I'd go on like a 6-hour training run and have like 200 calories.
Wow.
Like a psycho.
And how did you feel afterwards?
Oh, wrecked. wrecked. And then I started in training, actually training for UTMB because it's much longer days.
Right.
I was able to bring more solid food. So backtrack for a second. I was diagnosed with celiac disease in 2015. When I was 24, and like that, you know, really changed the way I ate. And like, it took me a while to recover from that. And after it, like, I couldn't keep anything down while I was running, but training like gels and stuff, but training for UTMB, I finally was able to like, you know, the days training for that. So I didn't train that much for UTMB because I ran it on short notice. I got in 3 weeks before the race. So David and I had like one big week, and it was just like one big week with really, really long runs. and during that, I was eating like whole foods. I was eating like sandwiches, and I was eating like mostly sandwiches, actually, like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches on gluten-free bread.
Delicious gluten-free bread, I'm sure.
Exactly. Well, European gluten-free baguettes are amazing.
Oh, okay.
And soft and not dry at all.
Fun fact. If you're looking for good gluten-free food, go to Europe.
I don't know why we can't figure it out. But anyway, I was doing like real food, and then I noticed not only did I feel better on the run, but I'd feel so much better the rest of the day. And the next day I wasn't as sore, and I thought it was all about recovery. I've always been good about food after the run, but like, it's crazy how fueling yourself during, because I guess you're just not depleting yourself as much. You don't go into that hole. So I was going to a huge hole every training run, and that was killing me. And I didn't notice it was killing me until I saw what it could be. I just saw how good you could feel. So now I'm just doing like more real foods. I've been doing a lot of like dried apricots on runs. I run for Science and Sport, and I love their bars. I do like I pretty much only eat their bars on training runs. You know, they just work really well, and it's whole foods. And so I feel much better after.
Cool. What's your favorite distance?
That is I've been thinking about this a lot lately. I really want to try another 50 miler because I really haven't run one. But I love the 100K, 100-mile distance. Like 100K is fun because you can rip still. You know, it's slow enough that you're not redlining ever. But you're going at a pretty moderate effort the whole time, and you can still run fast and hard. But the 100-mile distance is fun too. It's just like so much can happen in 100 miles. And like when you're at mile 80 and you think about the start, it feels like a universe ago. You know, it feels like so long ago. And that, you know, I can only mentally handle that a couple years, but man, it's special for sure.
Yeah. So I was in SQA last year for Western States, and my favorite question to ask people was like, why? Why are you doing this? And the answer that I liked the most was, well, first of all, 5Ks suck. And I'd much rather be doing this. And that same person followed it up by saying, but I love being outside. And what other way can you spend literally a full day?
Yeah.
And then some, just playing in the mountains.
Yeah, exactly.
What is it about the trails that you love so much?
There are so many things about the trails that I love. I think first and foremost, I am at my happiest, again, when I'm outside, but also, you know, outside and isolated. Like, and that doesn't mean being alone necessarily, but that means being separated from the rest of the world and from life, you know, from the hustle and bustle. Like when you're on the trails or when you're in a 100-mile race, like literally nothing else matters except for being out on the trails. And that's kind of different from road running. You know, so much matters in road running, and so much is wrapped around splits, or it's so easy when you're around like the traffic and like other people. And you know, the hustle and bustle, it's so easy to not separate yourself from what's going on. It's so easy to go for a road run and like go over like your work day, you know, relationship problems, whatever. But when you're in the mountains and you're running, nothing else matters. And like my soul is happiest when I'm on a trail. Like, I don't know why, because that's definitely not everyone. And I only know that because no one else in my family has that. But I just like, I feel the most at peace when I'm out there. And then again, it like trail running feels like playing, you know. I love just when you're running, ripping downhill, you know, it's fun. It's like playing a sophisticated game, you know, and I love games, and it feels like dancing, and that is cool too. Even if you're like not a super aesthetically beautiful place and it's a fun downhill, you know, that still is, they
have aesthetically pleasing places in the state?
mean, I wasn't saying in the state, but I've done a lot of road trips.
Nice. Where are some of your favorite places to run?
Well, I always answer this question with a new place, like somewhere I've never been. I love like something that my coach David, who's your coach too, so you know how he is about like wagging your finger when he doesn't like something you're doing,
which he doesn't do very often. But when he does it, you know you should listen.
I know, but my like favorite thing in the world is like big adventure runs where I like have never been somewhere before. Like it might go terribly wrong, but I'm out there for a long time and it's just crazy. And I love those runs. And I can only talk David into letting me do so many. But that is, whenever I have that plan, no matter where it is, if it's new trails, that's my favorite place to run. But I'm also a creature of habit, and I have like this 10-mile loop from my home in Netherlands that's on these rolling, amazing trails. And so total contrast to like the crazy adventure side of me. But that's, two sides of the coin, and I love them both.
Cool. Is that 10-mile loop the one you're talking about for tomorrow?
That's the one I'm talking about, yeah.
All right, I might have to do that up at 9,000 feet. I've gotten used to 6,000 or 5,000, so why not go higher, right?
Well, the fun thing is it's not it's like we'll get like 1,700 feet in this 10-mile loop, but it's all super rolling, so you're never climbing or descending for too long.
Cool.
Yeah.
How do you deal with the altitude?
Lots of food, I've found. That's really, I'm lucky and I adjust to altitude pretty quickly, but I think I really honestly attest that to the amount that I eat. And I know I don't, God, I don't count calories or anything, but I know my Cheerio uptake really went up when I lived up there. And you just get hungry all the time up there. And you really, if you listen to that, I feel like that's helped me not, because it's harder to recover at altitude. And I feel like the uptake in calories and food and quality food and not quality foods too has really
David's fun food approach is great.
I'm a huge believer in that. I have a huge sweet tooth, and there's a little cafe. Well, oh my gosh, after we run tomorrow, we have to go get carrot cake. We're going to take my dog. We're going to walk my dog into town and get some carrot cake at my favorite place. I get carrot cake like 5 days a week from there.
Nice.
Yeah.
I had someone on the podcast, Andy Cosarelli, and she said, after every run, it's a great run if I have a muffin.
Yeah.
And she is celiac too. I think there's something about, pastries and all that good stuff.
We always want what we can't have.
Exactly. The altitude thing is interesting. They say that eat more, drink more, sleep more. Mm-hmm. But I think that's just good advice for athletes in general.
Yeah, I totally do I think you're right. And I definitely do eat more. I could be better about the sleeping and drinking more. But I try my best.
I don't know. You've had like 4 glasses of water since we've sat down.
I know. That's because I didn't have any water till I got in the car and drove down from Netherlands, and just coffee.
Nice. So we're here in Boulder. You lived here for a few years. I just had another pro on the podcast who also lives in Boulder, and we were talking about the environment in Boulder. I was warming up this morning, and 6 elite athletes strolled by at, different times. What's it like being in a community like this where everyone is excellent at what they do?
Yeah. So there's this funny saying that kind of my friend group jokes about. It's called Boulder average, where your Boulder average, if you get,
35-minute 10K or something.
Yeah, exactly. 35-minute 10K, or if you have like a shoe sponsor or that's Boulder average.
Your status quo if you've got a sponsor.
Exactly.
Nice.
And or like winning races, your status quo, or winning major races.
Yeah. Boulder average.
Yeah, and I just think it's so funny and so true. But you really have to recognize that. And I fall victim to comparison. I'm getting better now in my adult life, but that's the reason I quit the team in college. And it gets tough sometimes, especially right now. I'm going through a little bit of a rough patch in my running, and it's easy to fall victim to that, and especially easy in Boulder. But you can kind of shift that and look at it instead as people you admire, and like think about instead of looking at it as like a man, I suck. Look at it as like, man, like I'm surrounded by so many incredible people who gets to, and I do think about this, and I'm not just like blowing smoke up your ass. Like, how many people on this planet get to be around so many high level athletes on a daily basis? That is wild, So yeah, it's just, it's cool.
So you mentioned that the running isn't where you'd like it to be at the moment. How do you manage that as someone that's been super successful, and we're sitting next to a sign that says "You are enough" here in the unicorn farm of David and Megan Roche. So results aside, you still want to improve. How do you manage that?
So I found in the last, my rough patch has been going on for like a year now, a little bit more, and at first I struggled. First, I thought to myself, am I enough? Like, am I enough? Do I really want to be in this sport where I just keep falling short? Do I want to be in this sport where I'm just, for so much of it, I'm just running in pain all of the time? Is that worth it? And then you have good days, and you got to really focus on those good days. And you got to really like look yourself in the mirror and think like, do you love running? I found through all of these setbacks, the one thing that I've learned is I do love running just for the running sake of it. And a year ago, I don't know if I could have looked you in the eye and told you that I'd really, truly love trail running. And that's a super valuable lesson. And I think that'll take me through my running career, hopefully for the next decade, but you just have to keep moving forward and, just be brutally honest with yourself sometimes.
Cool. My 2016 and 2017 were like pretty brutal, and my 2018 was a little better. And I started with David in July of last year, and like the last 3 to 5 months have just been like, it's just like the difference between the shitty times and the amazing times is just made better by the fact that it wasn't good for so long. And I think that like the days that are so awesome are worth the days that aren't, because there's so much like the highs are so much higher when you have those lows. I think if you won Western States and you won the next race and you won the next race and you won the next race, like that gets boring, right? It might be nice for a little bit, but David says all the time, and this is like an ad for Swap at this point, but it's like, it's so great. Like, we're just getting started. Like, you're what, 25 years old?
27.
27, just getting started.
Yeah.
And I think that's like a really exciting part of it, that we're in this place that's incredible, and we can just go use our body and do these amazing things.
Yeah, and do things that we love and get outside. And it's a huge piece of, like, if you don't attach performance to the activity, you know, like, of course you attach performance to the race, but if you don't attach performance to like the day-to-day activity, like the day-to-day joy of getting outside, then it really opens that up for you. Like, it really makes trail running more than just training. And I think that's been the lesson for me in the last year.
Definitely. The detachment from the numbers, I think, can be huge. Like today I ran like 8:40 pace for 13 miles. And like in Boston, I would be like pretty disappointed in that kind of a run. But here it's like, it's trail running. It doesn't matter. Pace doesn't matter. And you still have to remind yourself that like, it's gorgeous. You're out in nature and this type of thing. And it's all part of the fun.
Yeah, exactly. It's all part of the fun and all part of like the lessons you learn along the way, the people that you meet. So yeah, I feel grateful for it for sure.
Definitely. What are you scared of?
Ooh, that is such a good question. Man, I have to stop and think. It's not that I'm not scared of anything. I'm really lucky that I grew up, my mom, she's a little crazy, like absolutely insane, but in the best way. And she raised me, you know, I have made so many of my decisions in my life incredibly impulsively. Like, don't know if it's going to work out. Don't know, you know, what's going to happen, you know, but I don't even think about that. I just jump in like with the distinct possibility of failing.
I think that's exciting though.
It's super exciting. And I'm like, my mom lived her life that way growing up, and it, you know, made for some really hard times for us as a family. But it also, you know, when I told her I wanted to quit school, she was like, and I had like a full ride, and I told her I wanted to quit school. She was like, okay, you know, or when I wanted to like jump and move to Colorado, and I went back to school like eventually, but when I wanted to jump and move like to Colorado, you know, I decided one day I was going to move, and I literally packed up and moved the next day. She, you know, was like, okay. And I think growing up in that environment and having that, to never tell me I was crazy really helped me not be afraid of failure. I don't know what I am afraid of. I think I'm afraid of, I don't know. Sometimes I'm not super great socially sometimes. And I think that's probably being like really uncomfortable in social situations. Yeah. That's probably it for me. And I think that also stems from my mom, because she's the craziest, most outlandish, you know, extrovert of the extroverts. You know, I can't sit at a bar with her because she'll spend the entire night talking to the bartender. And I think that comes from her just because like I didn't talk, but I think just like the social anxiety, I definitely have.
So that's why you're front running out ahead of everybody else. Get away from me. I need to go run 2 miles ahead.
Well, you know, I'm actually from that car accident. I'm deaf and almost completely deaf in my left ear. And it's made it just so funny for that social anxiety, because if I'm at a restaurant, it definitely makes it worse. But on the trails, I just like can't hear people talking to me, unless like it's one-on-one on a quiet trail. But in races, I just can't hear. So it's actually really been helpful, because I don't even have to think about it. And if I don't try and, you know, talk to people and don't try and hear them and just accept that I can't hear, and like if they think I'm rude, that's fine. Because I'm not, and like if they talk to me, I won't be. But I think it's really actually helped.
Cool. Let's talk about the community, the trail running community. Mm-hmm. What do you love about it?
That it exists. I've never seen anything. I don't know of anything else like the trail running community. Yeah. And it's just like such a powerful wave of people and love and compassion and support and crazy ideas. And I'm sure there's something else that exists like that, but let me tell you, before I moved to Boulder, I didn't have a lot of friends. Yeah. I didn't have a single person outside of like my mom that I could reach out to and be like, hey, I need help. Yeah. But I'm in trail running. Like since I've started trail running in 2013, I know so many people that if I needed help, they would come jumping to that. And like that, just like the support system that trail running has created for so many people is really cool. And then also to add on to that, like trail running brings people of all different types together for this one common interest. Like I have friends who are like astrophysicists that I don't understand what they're saying.
Anything that they're saying.
And I am like honored that they want to hang out with me, you know, because I'm just so blown away by their intelligence. And I was a kindergarten teacher, and like on no other way, you know, there's no other way these two people would possibly be friends. But because of trail running, we have this common interest, and like I learned so much from him, and I'm so grateful for that friendship. And like that's just an example, but there's hundreds of other examples. It's just a really cool way to bring different people together who would have never, you know, built a friendship otherwise.
For sure. What's it like to be you know, the relationship with sponsors? What's it like to be an athlete that has those types of obligations?
Yeah. So I'm really lucky in my sponsors. You know, I feel my sponsors genuinely care about me, and that's number one. And that's the thing that I was afraid of when I signed a contract. You know, when I won Western and I was just thrown into signing contracts, it was super scary. I did not, you know, I was super intimidated by the process. And
did you have anyone helping you with it, or
David helped? My boyfriend Ryan works for Salomon, so he helped. You know, just advice of other people. You know, again, Boulder average. I wasn't the first person to sign a contract in my friend group.
Now you were average.
Yeah, now I'm average. Exactly.
Congrats.
Thank you. I made it. I really feel like I made it.
Yeah.
I guess in Boulder, when you're peaking, it's still average.
Yeah, exactly.
But I forget what I was saying.
So are there pressures to race? Are there?
No, it's not the pressures to race. I don't feel that. I've found that like if I personally want to do a race and I'm dedicated to doing the best that I can do, that external stuff like sponsors don't matter. But sometimes it's hard to balance events and photo shoots. And again, like I'm not always great in a social situation, and I can be on for a little while and then like it takes me a little while to recover from. But also I feel so grateful for my sponsors that I just want to say yes, yes, yes to everything. So in the first year, I literally said yes to everything, and I still am guilty for that. Like until this week, I have been out of town once a week on a plane since February.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is super hard. But just learning to say no and to prioritize and still do your part and still give back to the sponsors that give you so much without stringing yourself out. That's been the biggest learning lesson.
I think the learning to say no thing is something that like a lot of people should catch or consider. I fly a lot, and you know they give you the safety demo of put your mask on first before helping those around you.
I love that.
I love the reminder that you get from that. And yes, it means literally put your oxygen mask on first, but you have to be healthy and fulfilled and well rested and fed and things like that before you can contribute anything to the world around you.
Yeah, exactly. And I love when I'm at these events. I do love them. I love talking to everyone. I love being there in the community. And I love representing my sponsors. Like I truly do. But it is so taxing, and you can't get, and otherwise I'm a homebody, I love being home. And so it is balance. And I don't know if I would have learned to say no because when I was a teacher, it was the same thing. Like I was directing the after school program. Yeah. I was like taking on all this other extra stuff. I was getting my master's so I could, one day taking it on an administrative role and just yes. So I don't know if I would have ever learned to say no if I didn't travel as much as I do, because that's hard,
What are some tips you have for travel and traveling as an athlete?
Don't force the run. That's the biggest.
That's huge.
Do not force the run. In the last 6 months, I've done more traveling than ever, but I've managed to, I have just like had the most horrible history with getting sick. And I think part of that's like the celiac disease, and I'm finally bouncing back from that, from eating gluten my whole life and like my immune system being low. But part of it is like I used to still try and force training when I'm traveling, and like I'm seriously every week since February. That's so many flights, and so like to force that many runs would just kill me. And so I just like if I can run and if I feel good enough to run, I will. But like if I don't, if my legs are trashed, if I feel like I'm getting sick, if I like I flew back from France, I got home on Monday, and I like. David had me running 2 days ago, and I haven't run yet just because I haven't felt up to it. And I'm at peace with that,
Nice.
Past me would not have been.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of people describe fitness as like building a house, and you add brick and you add a brick and you add a brick and then you add a brick. You can miss a brick here and there, and it's not the end of the world.
Or if you add a crumbling brick, you're adding a crumbling piece to the foundation of the house. And that's what a forced run is. It's like a crumbling brick, and it's not going to support your house the same way a solid brick would be. And so might as well wait.
Yes. And if you keep putting these crumbling bricks into a foundation, then the house is going to fall down.
House is going to fall down.
And then you won't be on those smooth, buttery trails.
Yeah.
How do you feel about balance? I know you've talked about it a little bit. What is your definition of balance, or what's balance for Kat?
Balance for Kat is having something that fulfills me other than running too. So when I stopped teaching, I got laid off and then won Western. So it was like this crazy like heartbreak and then this crazy opportunity that came from that. But then also, you know, because I didn't have to get another job, I didn't. And I was just like, okay, what do I do now? And I was not happy. And it wasn't until, you know, I started doing some freelance writing, and then David for like 2 years had really been trying to get me to coach. Like before I got laid off from teaching, he's like, you should really coach. Like, and I took on like one friend for free. And it wasn't until, you know, I started taking on people for free and just by word of mouth, like it spread a little bit, that I didn't start coaching. And it's been huge for me, for my own personal well-being. And then also just like, it fills that teacher size hole in my heart. And also it like gives me something to learn. Like I spend my free time like making myself the most knowledgeable coach I can be. So that's just an example of balance, having something else, having something, giving back, you know, that makes you balanced, that makes you fulfilled. And whether that's like volunteering or you know, being active in your community, like that is giving back. And I think that's key to being fulfilled. You can't just skirt along and just take care of yourself.
Definitely. What's it like seeing another athlete that you're responsible for, I guess you could say, fulfilling their goals or getting closer to their goals?
There's
what's that
honestly
like?
Nothing better. So my favorite story, I love all of my athletes and I love all of my clients, and I'm super stoked for them equally. You know, all of them are racing right now. It's super cool to see and super fulfilling. But one guy, he reached out to me after DNFing Javelina in October 2018, and he's been running ultras for 10 years, and he's 60 and has never finished an ultra over 50K, but he's tried dozens of ultras. He's just never been able to finish. He had some knee problems, but I think it was also just a matter of like not having consistent training. It was kind of like a story of me, like just signing up for these races and not running for 6 months. So he DNF'd Javelina, and he lives in the UK, and this is like his second time DNFing Javelina, traveling out here.
Bit of a trek.
Yeah. He loves to travel.
Yeah.
But so we've been working really hard all winter. And he hasn't had an easy winter. Running through snow. Again, he's 60, full-time job. He could have easily DNF'd Javelina and been like, that's my like 20th DNF. I'm not in like
it's
the next 10 years. It's not meant to be. But he reached out to me, and we've been working really hard. And he finished a 88-mile run in Italy. It was called Abbott's Way, and it had 35,000 feet of gain, and he finished in 30 hours fighting knee pain, fighting nutrition pain, just tough as nails, and he was in the top 50% at 60. Like that is, I think the cutoff was 40 hours. That's crazy. And I, was so filled with pride. We talked on the phone for like an hour, and he's a super analytical guy. So like he wrote me this huge analysis, and then we talked on the phone for a long time, and it's just like, it's so special to be part of that, and it's all him. Like he put in the work every day. He did. He's really good at communicating, which is like huge for me. I talk to every single one of my athletes every day, and like, it's just seeing, like, talk about going through hard stuff with ultras. Like he has been fallen short of his goals in ultra running for 10 years, and watching him finish Abbott's Way and exceed all expectations and goals was super special.
So is that what keeps you going? The pursuit of getting better and achieving goals, whether it's yours or somebody else's?
There's a lot of things that keep me going, but I've always been extremely goal driven. And that's certainly, I've honestly had to stop being as goal driven because because then I can't appreciate where I am. But yes, in short.
So what's the focus for the rest of 2019?
So I am racing UTMB. And that is again, last year I signed up 3 weeks notice. After dropping out of Western States, I, kind of got my life together, and then I, signed up for UTMB, bought a ticket last minute, went over there, ran on the course for a week, and then tapered. And, I had an okay day on paper. I got 8th. But
that was a tough day for.
It was not a good day for me. I was puking for the last 12 miles. It was just like.
But the weather, just in general, was
my bottles
horrible.
were freezing up top. But honestly, it wasn't the weather that bothered me so much. I just like didn't have a good day. I was not well trained. I didn't know what I was getting into. It was the hardest day I've ever had. I can't think and I'm so unbelievably scared to go back. Seriously, I'm like
Does that
terrified.
excite you though?
It excites me. Yeah, it for sure. It like
it's the unknown.
I'm I'm like an idiot for going back after I went through last year, but I came home and just getting my ass kicked like that really inspired me, you know? And kind of, and especially, I don't know why, I've just been getting my ass kicked race after race after race in the last year. But UTMB was something different. And I am so proud of racing to the finish. Like, so when I tore my esophagus in the race and was, so I spent like, 10 hours in the hospital after because I was puking this. It would look like coffee grounds, but it was blood. And I didn't know that I was puking in the race. And I was like, why is my puke black? and it turns out I'd ripped my esophagus. And and I spent some time in the hospital after. And I'm just like, I can't. So in the last 5 miles, I'd been in 8th. So I was in 5th until La Fouille, Switzerland. And then I fell into 8th. And that's when I started puking. And, and La Fouille is like 100K. So I was bad last 40 miles. And I got
UTMB is 105, right? Or
107.
Okay.
That last 2 miles make a huge difference. In you're mile 95 and you still have 12 miles to go, but get this, with 6,000 feet.
In the last 12 miles?
12, and you're not mile 95.
I don't run that in a week.
The mile 95, and you think the race on paper should be almost over, but you still have
just
like
getting
this
started.
huge climb.
And the look in your face right now, you're like, this is it. Like I live for this.
Yeah, it is.
Kat is smiling from ear to ear right now. And Addie has perked up and wants pets.
Oh. Hi, Addie. It's like the craziest, hardest thing ever. I just remember. But anyway, so I get to the top of that climb and I'm somehow has held on to 8th place. I don't know how, because I was crawling up that climb. Going like, my watch, it shows splits. I was going like 50-minute miles up that climb, but everyone was suffering, I guess. And I get to the lot, but they were catching me. I kind of built a gap, but they'd caught me. So I get to the top in the last 5 miles, 8th or 9th through like 13th is minutes behind me. And I'd had this big gap all day, and all of a sudden there were minutes behind me. I start descending. I puke again, and as I'm puking, someone passes me. And I think
you hit their feet, right?
What?
You hit their feet with the projectile?
I should have. I didn't have quite as good aim, but I saw them and she passed me and I was like, crap, I've held on to this like through puking for so long and now I'm going to get off the top 10. But I was like, quickly, I turn it around. I'm like, I'm not going to get down on myself. And I raced hard. And that last descent was my fastest descent of the day. And it's 5 miles, technical, steep. And I just bombed it. And I'm super proud of myself for holding, after being so defeated and I've never raced that far, like that in the last 100. Like the 8th through 13th, we were minutes behind each other. And I've never had that in 100. Like when I won Western, Magda was, 4 minutes behind me at the river. But at the end, she was 20 minutes behind me. So like I've never had to like sprint finish, but I was looking back behind me in town. I was like, God. And I could see the headlamps of the other girls, and
that's wild. I can't even imagine what that's like. But I feel like something like that you carry with you for the next time it happens, or the next time like you have that next gear, right?
I'm so grateful for that experience. And honestly, it like that last 5 miles, as much I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get caught. It was my favorite part of the race because and it really affirmed that like, I do love racing.
And you find out what you're made of in those moments. I had that experience. I raced a marathon a couple weeks ago and I was chasing a time goal, sub 3. And mile 23 comes around, and it's like it's not over yet. Was what was going through my head. Like, I'm making a choice right now. Gas pedal down. This is gonna suck. And it's so cool when you can access that like next level when you find out what you're made of.
And you know, it's so funny that you say that, because like in and it was a huge breakthrough for me, because I didn't know I had that in me, because in my problem in high school, I grew up in a small state. I won everything, you know, and no one fought me. And then, but like the few times that someone would challenge me, I would give up. Yeah. You know, I'd give up and I've actually never said this publicly. Like, it's taken me a long time to recognize it, or not. I always knew it deep down, but it took me a long, you know,
to accept it and acknowledge it.
But as a kid, I would give up. And, when I was faced, you know, if it wasn't an easy win, I'd give up. And that's not because I wasn't tough. It's just because I was so used to winning that mentally it would just kill me. Yeah. So knowing that when I get past now in my adult life, I have it in me mentally to race, to be like, no, it's not over yet.
That's powerful.
It's powerful. Yeah. So I don't know if I finished, but I ended up passing her back in like the last like 2 kilometers. Nice. Just like reckless downhill running. And
we won't be doing that tomorrow, right?
No, God, no.
Cool. Kat, where can people find you on social media?
So I'm Kat B Rad everywhere. So on Facebook, it's Kat Bradley. Instagram, it's CATBERAD. My website is same thing, Kat B Rad, CATBERAD.com. And then Strava, I'm just Kat Bradley.
Cool. Kat, thanks so much for joining today, and we'll see you out there.
Of course. That was a blast. Thank you.
Of course. That's it for today's episode. Like many long runs, it's sad when it has to end. I hope you join in next week on For the Long Run, and in the meantime, happy trails. If you've enjoyed this episode, it would mean a lot to me if you shared it so that others can find it and enjoy it too.